Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 123. We got a very good chapter this week, mostly starring Nobara. Nobara is the shining star of this chapter, which is a very good thing because she hasn't really gotten her time to shine in a little bit. And Nobara tends to have some of the best showing off moments of any of the characters in the series, save maybe Gojo, because, it's Gojo. He's the best at everything. But Nobara is always really fun and does some crazy stuff every time she shows up on screen. So we got a color intro page and a full color spread, and the full color spread was amazing. I don't remember the last time Gege's done a colored intro page, like the panels on the first page of the chapter are all in color. The last time I can think of that is maybe when Yuji fought Mahito for the first time. But otherwise, I can't think of any other time that's happened. So the biggest developments for this chapter would certainly be with Nobara. We see that Nobara is extremely strategic when it comes to her technique. So the straw doll technique is probably one of the more how do I put this? It requires much more strategy than a lot of the other techniques, especially amongst the big three of this series, with Megumi's Shikigami and Yuji's Divergent Fist, I guess. Those are all fairly straightforward, whereas Nobara's power requires a lot more, tactics to it. So we see her with some excellent strategic use of hairpin, where she throws a bunch of her nails on the ground and uses hairpin to make them all stand up, and then uses hairpin again to make all of those nails impale Mahito. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing, most interesting that we see, is that Resonance is able to attack the soul, and it is able to attack Mahito through his double. And then the damage done to Mahito's soul is then bounced back onto the double itself. So it damages both of them. So while Yuji's in the middle of fighting the real Mahito, Mahito takes a bunch of damage out of nowhere. So as Mahito puts it himself, Yuji Itadori is not his only natural enemy. It's also Nobara. So that's really great. It had seemed like Megumi and Yuji had all basically had their, what would you say, counter, their arch nemesis, I guess. So with Megumi, you have that with Sukuna. Even though Sukuna hasn't really done much with Megumi recently, that was really only established very early on in chapter 10-ish, and hasn't really been too prominent until somewhat recently. But even then, Sukuna hasn't really interacted with Megumi in a really long time. And the conflict between Yuji and Mahito was recently brought back into the spotlight. And it seems like Nobara is going to be sharing Mahito with Yuji, which is pretty cool. We finally have a character for her to be countered to, even if it is someone that another character was already countered with, but it's whatever. That's always fun. I'm sure this will give some material to people that ship Yuji and Nobara, which is fine. Now, another one of the more important details is the nature of Mahito's doubles. So the double is aware that it's basically a clone. But one of the more significant parts is that it's not able to use its curse technique or transform other people. It's only able to transform its own body. So it's not ridiculously busted. So Mahito could in theory create an army of himself, but only he is able to use idle transfiguration on other people. So that makes it less overpowered than I thought it may have been originally, which is good. But yeah, that's pretty much most of the very important details of the chapter. We did get to see a little bit more of Mahito's strategy, with him skewering 3 people and basically using them as human hand grenades. I don't know if I've brought this up before, but idle transfiguration is a really fucked up technique. It's part of why I hate Mahito so much, is that his technique is unbelievably disgusting and cruel, which is very fitting for his character. And I assume we'll probably be seeing more of this gross shit in the near future. Now, this sort of feels like the entering of the second act of the fight. So, you already had Yuji fighting with Mahito. I mean, I guess you could say as soon as Nobara was introduced, we were already in the second act, which is fine, I guess. Yeah, that would be plausible. But it doesn't feel like we're getting into, like, oh my god, it could end any second. We've had newly established stakes with showing how Nobara is able to harm Mahito with resonance. So we're maybe like halfway through the fight, maybe even a little more. But I don't get the vibe of like, oh, it's going to end like next chapter. We'll probably get like another 2 or 3 chapters out of this. I think it's very clear that Nobara is probably going to kill the double. Though, I wonder if doing that would then translate to killing Mahito. In which case, she probably won't kill it? I don't know. We'll have to find out more about how exactly the double relates to Mahito. If using resonance is able to damage both of them, I wonder what would happen if she used resonance to kill this clone. I'm wondering what she will have to do. I guess she would have to decapitate him, right? That's generally how that goes. So we'll see what Nobara can do. Nobara may actually end up being the deciding factor in this fight, which I did not expect originally. But I'm very happy about it. I'm glad to see Nobara being very important again. Unless Yuji whips out some Sukuna techniques, because I know Gojo said earlier on, like very early on in the series, that at some point Yuji may be able to use Sukuna's techniques, which would be pretty cool. Considering that Sukuna now has 15 fingers, I would assume that he would have enough power for Yuji to be able to tap into it without Sukuna taking over. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reviews every week. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I'd highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Chainsaw Man, Kengan Omega, and Bleach, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested, you should definitely check out my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.